Okay, I think we're live now for real this time, right, Jonah?
Yes,
Are we live?
sir.
Okay, happy Tuesday, everybody. Today's Tuesday, so it must be about typography. And we're now week 4. We're week 4 into our 7-week course here, and we're giving feedback. In case you're joining us, welcome, everybody. We have 30 live and willing and able-bodied people participating with us and returning once again. Miss Milka Broukhim, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm excited for this week's class.
Are you wearing a new headset, or is that the same headset last week? What's going on?
It is the same headset. How does the sound work?
The sound is working perfectly.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into it. I'm going to share my screen here. I think, Jonah, are we on my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in case you guys don't know what the heck we're doing today, and hopefully we're broadcasting in HD resolution. It's like only our 800th broadcast, but maybe today we'll get it right, and so we don't have to re-upload. So week 4, this is part of the typography course for people who are wondering how they can participate in this. You just enroll in the class, and then you submit your work. And if you're just starting out, or if you've done the class before, you're also invited and welcome to join us in our conversation today. Okay, anyways, one of the things that I want to remind everybody about when you're designing this on your own, because truth be told, you really do need a teacher, a mentor, somebody to help you out with this stuff, but we all can't get it. It's very pricey to get one-on-one coaching. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but if you're working on this on your own, you have to start to have a set of rules or guides so that you can critique your own work. The idea is that the transference of knowledge from instructor to student happens in outlining something like this. So I've broken it down in 5 points. What are we looking at? What's the focal point? What are you as the creator telling me, the audience, the viewer, the reader, to look at first? And that's achieved through scale and contrast, mostly just contrast. Contrast can come in black and white, big and small, bold and light, heavy or scattered, like heavy is in terms of concentrated. So Milka has her rules, which is like large, medium, and small. What kind of shapes are you creating and how do they play off each other? Next part is order. Like, how are the components that you put together on the page, how is it ordered? Is it sequenced correctly? What is the relationship between all the components on the page? You have to pay careful attention to this. Part number 3 is there an element of surprise? Because we've seen layouts that are really following all the rules, but they're a little bit on the boring side. Yes, they're clean, they're aligning to a grid, there's good hierarchy, but you have to create something for us, the viewer, the audience, to get pulled into. We've seen thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of layouts before. So what's going to grab our attention? What are you going to do to draw my eye in? And then be mindful of the negative space. It's not just what you put on the page, but when you put something on the page, it creates more space. And it's the white space that is really just the balance, the art, and the beauty of how the layout comes to life. And lastly, we'll talk about details. Is letter spacing okay? Did you misspell any words? Is there any kind of weird alignment issues? And you kind of do it in this order. You don't just start with the details. Okay, having said that, let's get into the work. Now, there was a question, like, how do we pick the work that we're going to critique? How does this work? Milka, I think you and I spoke last night, and are you prepared to like get your hands into some of the work today, or is it me piloting again?
I'm gonna let you do that one more time. I tried last week. I'm open. Let's look at a few work and then let's see how that goes. But for now,
files too. Yes.
No, we'll do that next week.
Oh, okay.
I had a lot of homework last night.
Yeah. Okay. So in case you guys don't know, because you probably have seen my face before and you know who I am, Milka was many things, a teacher for over 10 years at a bunch of different schools, private and state schools. And she worked for a period of time at Snapchat. Is that right, Milka?
Yes, I did. I worked there for like almost 5 years.
5 years. And what was your role there?
I was many roles actually, because it was a startup. We had a flat structure, but ultimately I ended up being the head of the brand corporate design, in charge of all the branding. I also designed and co-created the logo for Snap Inc. with the co-founder of Snapchat, Evan Spiegel.
That sounds like a pretty awesome job. How did you get that job? I'm just curious.
Well, as you mentioned, I taught about 15 years to 15 different public and private universities. And one of my students, Evan Spiegel, he started a startup company called Snapchat. And he called me in and he said, Milka, can you come on board and help us out? And I said, I'll be delighted. So
Wow.
Teaching pays off.
In your case, it has. My wife's wondering, like, where's my dumb luck? It hasn't paid off just yet.
Yeah.
And I've been teaching for a bit too. So that's pretty fascinating. It's fascinating for a couple different reasons. One is that where we are in the world, you have the opportunity to meet young, talented, bright, brilliant minds like Evan, right?
Yes.
And then he takes your class and then he remembers you. So that's also a pretty significant little thing there.
Yeah.
And he's so successful. This is crazy. Young people, former students of yours, are running really large multi-billion-dollar corporations. That's awesome.
Well, if you think of it that way, it is awesome. It is. I was also his private design tutor. So if that helps anybody to wanting to take advantage of that opportunity with your teachers, I think I highly recommend do work with your teachers privately because it does pay off.
Okay, excellent. We'll follow up on this a little bit more later. So let's get into it because people were asking, who's Milka? Who's this wonderful lady with the sound effects and all the colorful analogies and mixed metaphors? Well, that's Milka Broukhim. And in case you're wondering, Milka and I are friends. We've been friends for a really long time now. We run into each other all the time because we live in the same city essentially. But we've never taught together. We've never worked together. So it's been a delight for me personally to be able to have another set of amazing eyes looking at the work. And you guys know she's so sharp. Nothing is going to escape her. So let's just jump into the layout. So this week, I'm going to start by doing something a little different here.
The feeling is mutual, Chris.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So I'm going to look at Tony Gibbs' work. And I just want to tell you how I select work. I scan really quickly because there are like 30 to 50 submissions every single week, and each person is submitting 3 pieces of work. Mark's done a really good job of helping me to curate ones that he thinks are the best learning opportunities. Then I have to go through those and make decisions as to, is there something good here that I can talk about as an example for others to follow? Is there one thing that they're trying that I think other people can benefit from looking at and opening up their horizons in terms of what they want to explore? Also, I pick layouts that are just in desperate need of like a rethink. So that's what I'm looking for. And it's at the extremes of these submissions that I'm picking out work. The ones in the middle, I feel like we've already talked about, we've seen before, or they're not pushing it. So you can push it and do something brilliant, or you can push it and have a horrific car crash, but it's just type, nobody gets hurt. So it's okay.
That's true.
Right? So you might see your work and you're like, oh yeah, I'm on the good side. And then you realize, oh my God, I'm on the dark side of this. Okay, let's get into it. So what I did this week was I took a little bit of time to draw over a few of the layouts. So I'm going to zoom in here so you guys can see this, okay? And hopefully you guys are seeing this and you're hearing me clearly. So one trick that I'll do, and you've seen me do this before, is to draw a block over things. I just want to simplify the layout because if you look at the words or the paragraphs, they can get more complicated. And then you look at the words and it's even more complicated. And then you look at the letters, you could start to lose a sense of what the layout is doing. So by merely drawing a block over the elements that Tony has laid out for us, we can kind of see now the essence of this layout. And if you really think about it, this is just really one group here. It just happens to be broken into 3 parts, right? But it's a very centered layout. And it is, to me, a little bit on the static side. Usually centered layouts are reserved for things that are very classical in their feeling, very traditional. But this layout is neither classical nor traditional. It's a magazine about pioneers in design. So we want to honor the content. We want to treat it appropriately. So this is where I'm having some issues with this layout. And the other thing that I get the feeling that Tony's done here is that he's taken the type and he's pushed it up into the corner here, and he's pushed it down into the corner here, and it's not doing anything for me. Milka, do you have some thoughts on this?
Yes, I totally agree with you. And it's so good that you created those boxes so we can visualize how the relationship is working with one another. We talked about almost. And look, there's so many almost things that are happening here. There's almost same size boxes. They're almost same distance away from each other. It's symmetrical, but it's not symmetrical.
Yeah.
So the question is, how can we take, here's a question actually, before we move forward. This class is about hierarchy of typography. What's the first read? The first read is definitely those two big, gigantic texts on the side, which I really appreciate the student, Tony, pushing and pulling that and making it interesting and exciting and off the page. But I think we need to spend a little bit more time into realizing what is my first read, what is my second read, and what is my third read. You got to look at it and go boom, boom, boom.
Just minutes into it, we already have the sound effects going. Boom, boom, boom.
You squint your eyes and see what is the first thing you see. Because right now my eye is going boop, 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 boop. It's like, I don't know which one to look at. The one on the left says me, me, me. The one on the right says me, me, me. And I'm like, whoa, I'm confused.
So what should we do?
Oh, we need to deconstruct and reconstruct.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Construct. So I'm going to copy this. And this week, what I've done is I'm going to be zooming in and zooming out like this the whole time. So assuming this is close enough, okay, that's the layout. So this time we'll have a before and after. I'm doing that for a bunch of these things. I don't want to show you what else I'm doing here, but okay.
I like
so
that.
We have the on the left and we have the after on the right. So Milka, walk me through what you would do as a type expert.
May I take this opportunity to talk about readability, Chris? Is that okay?
Yes.
Folks, notice that it's more easy to read the right side of the page where it says, thank you, Chris. Whereas it's more difficult to read the left side of the page. Exactly. In general, it is easier to do so because of the form and the shape of the letters. It's more recognizable when we see the top half versus we see the bottom half.
Yes, it is. That's a good thing for you guys to note there, okay?
So that's a good note to have. So if we want to take advantage of pushing and pulling it off the page, let's see more of the top portion of the text.
Oops.
And then maybe a slide of the bottom portion. Yeah. Okay. Oh, Chris, you're just so good. You've got it.
Just talking, I can do
it. You're so awesome. Beautiful. Does that help? Do you see how that helps? That boom already is creating that push and pull. It's creating that depth that we're talking about. So you see the right side of the page first, and then the left side of the page.
Mm-hmm.
Are you all with me?
We're with you.
Awesome. Now, the ones in the middle, they're not talking to the right side and the left side. So I don't know. At this moment, I would probably go in there and redesign the whole thing. Exactly. Thank you, Chris. Yes. The space between those boxes, they're not there for me. I mentioned this last week. When we're designing a layout, we want to be mindful of how each element has a relationship with other elements. They need to have a relationship. They need to talk with one another. Right now, they're not talking with one another. They're speaking different languages. Resonate is speaking vertically, right? And then the rest of the body copy is speaking horizontally in the middle.
Yeah.
We need to spend some time in order to make this work. And we're not there yet at all. I think we need to spend some good amount of time to make this work. Chris, what would you do from here on? Or what would you like to say?
Yeah, I just want to say a few things. And I think you're right in that we kind of have to just hit the reset. And so reset button. Here's what I'm going to advise everybody to do. You're staring at your layout. You're like, God, why isn't it singing? It's not flowing. What is up? So we can try to do a few things. We can say, all I'm going to do right now is I'm going to hide stuff. Okay, watch what happens. I'm going to take this. I'm going to hide it. Does it make the layout better? Is it still broken? I'm like, it's still not great because the center column text here is not really doing anything with this. They're kind of not relating to one another. They're not speaking the same language, to borrow Milka's phrase there. So if I start to, let me remove this. Okay, Now you look at that and you're like, is that interesting?
Ooh.
Is it handsome?
Ah.
Yeah, it is. Right? So now we think this element is good. Maybe in its previous iteration, when you're hiding too much of it, it wasn't. So you need to see a little bit more of the tops of the E and a couple of other letters, because see this letter here, the G? You can't tell that's a G just yet. It could be a lowercase a weird A or something. We just don't know. So by pushing it into the frame, we can get a better sense of what it is. Now, if you pull it too far out, it may or may not lose that tension that's being created on the left edge there. So just be mindful of that. Now let's bring everything back, okay? So now what we do is we're gonna do the opposite here. I'm gonna hide this. I'm gonna hide each one of these in order here. Let me hide this, hide this. Okay, now that I bring this back, is this okay? Now, this in itself is not bad, and this isn't bad, but the two together isn't really doing anything. This is where you may want to pay more attention to alignment, gridding, and spacing. So when we talk about this, the order, like we have the focal point, but how are these things related? Like once I read resonate, what am I supposed to do here? This is where we need to start the design, right? So if I bring each and see, like this is what you need to do. This works true in Photoshop as it does in Illustrator. Turn off your layers, turn them back on one at a time. And when something doesn't feel right, you've identified a problem. So perhaps this thing that you're doing here, which is kind of reminiscent of how credits are displayed at the end of a film, where they split the alignment, they align flush right and then flush left, and then they align things in that way. That's kind of what you've created here. So it feels to me like, Tony, what we want to do is make sure we understand how to manipulate and position type for impact, for clarity, and for relationship, and for balance and harmony. And in this initial layout, it felt like you dropped 3 elements and you're like, I don't know what else to do. That's it. Okay. So some things for you to think about. I think the first thing I would do just immediately is take all the stuff and align it left. Okay. And ask yourself, is this layout better now?
There you go. I can breathe now.
Do not hold your breath when designing, everybody. You'll turn blue in the face and it's not good. So we're starting to get a better sense of the flow. And all I did was hit Command-Shift-L on the Macintosh, which I think is also Control-Shift-L on the PC. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. So that aligns everything. And it's like, why did we fight this? Why did we try to split this? Because we weren't confident enough in that keeping this aligned is good enough. So we add tricks and we do things like that. So the other thing that we need to pay attention to is, I'm going to draw another box here. I'm going to grab this one. Okay. And I'm going to draw a box and kind of get a sense of proportion here. So if I take this and then drop this down here. I'm doing something weird. Okay, so this is about double. So you can see like we're creating weird spacing in between all these things. All I want to do is pay attention to the space in between these boxes, like the white space here and the white space here. So I'm going to delete these now. Okay, sometimes that helps. So we just want to try something. We want to take this and we want to say, what if we brought this closer to this? Does it make this space more interesting or dynamic? Does reducing the number of elements from 4 groupings, 1, 2, 3, 4, into 3 make it a little easier? Yeah. Maybe not. I don't know.
Chris, if I may add to what you're saying, is that before we have these boxes or islands that they're floating around. And by you bringing the middle paragraph to the bottom paragraph, you're creating proximity. And proximity is a good thing to create focal point versus the eye jumping around, boom, boom, boom. Because it's overwhelming for the eye to know where to go when there's these elements floating around.
Okay. So that's the other thing you can do is, if things feel complicated, make them simpler by grouping.
Yes.
So position or distance implies relationship.
Nice.
So if I put these 2 close together, then we look at this as their family, they belong together, and we should see them as one unit, even though they're made of many components, okay? And we can keep working on this. So you can also say like, okay, what else can we do over here? I'm going to try something, okay? All I'm going to do is put a little bit more space between resonate and this and see like, okay, how does that change things? Like, does this make this more interesting? So we're starting to get 3 groups back. It's really small one, little dot on the page, a box, and another box. Okay. I forgot to mention something. I want you guys to look at this. Let me hide this for a second. If you were to look at this as a layout, just like you're doing abstract painting, postmodern kind of just boxes on a page, do those boxes look interesting to you? And if it doesn't look good like this, it's probably a good indicator we need to work on the composition a little bit more. And if you need some help, there are some artists you can study, and you can look at their compositions. Like who can they look at?
Right. Tony, I also get the feeling that Tony is trying to perhaps challenge himself to see how he can create this symmetrical layout. But be aware, Tony, that when Chris created those boxes, it also showed us that, what do we see? We see a window. I see a window. Is this what you want the audience to see? If that's the intention, then again, you're on the right road. But if that's not the intention, then it's not working out, because the eye is jumping around everywhere. Like how you're looking at a window where you've got all these little boxes and windows that are floating in front of you with a frame.
Okay, so we're gonna leave this here for a moment, and I promise you, at some point, if I get a moment, I'll look for some artists to point in your direction, and then you guys can look at their compositions. Okay. All right, let's move on. So next up, I'm gonna hide this layer here. Okay.
Beautiful job, Chris, on that one. Very nicely done.
Let's see here. I have to zoom out to see what the heck we got here. So, okay, let's zoom in on this one. All right. This is from, he helped me spell his name phonetically. So it's Lutfun, Callus, and Wichuk Sono. Okay. I probably should say that a lot faster, but seeing how like my language is monosyllabic and you give me these polysyllabic names, it's a lot harder for me to read. So it's Lutfun, Wichuk Sono. Okay. So we're gonna look at this. I think he may or may not have the right typeface. I don't think he has it, but I think he left me a note. So just letting you guys know I'm aware of it. Okay, so once again, I look at this layout, and just as a reminder, this week we have more options than we've ever had. We have 2 point sizes and 2 weights. You would think this is too good to be true. And I'm seeing like this dive in the work. Like last week, I thought we're going up this roller coaster and we're like going to a really good place, to new heights. We saw some really beautiful layouts. There wasn't a whole lot for me to do in some of the layouts. And this week, unsurprisingly to Milka and I, the layouts overall got worse. Having more options meant like, I got more decisions to make. Now, you know, you're allowed to use 2 point sizes and 2 weights, but you don't have to. You're allowed to. So just think about that. Okay. All right. Just because you're given 128 crowns doesn't mean you have to use all the crowns. So it turns out those limitations are things that are good for you, these constraints that we work in. So I'm going to turn on the highlight layer. I had to turn this yellow because otherwise you wouldn't be able to see what it is I'm putting on there. But this is essentially a 3-column grid, give or take. All right. So we have 3 blocks that are very similar in measurement in terms of their size. If I take this, duplicate it down, they're very similar. Not quite, but they're very similar. Okay. And then they're butting up against each other, and it's trapping all the space in here, down here. It's like, let me breathe a little bit. It's almost like you built a house and we're looking from a floor plan, like from top down. We have this courtyard up here in the top left, and we have this courtyard in the bottom right. But the people who are playing up here can't play with the people in the bottom right. We've given them no space. Like, how do we move from one place to the other? The egress and ingress, in and out of space, the flow, the air, the energy, the chi. We're like blocking it up. So we kind of have to figure something out there. Okay, Milka, do you have any thoughts on this layout?
I agree with you 100%. In fact, this is a perfect example when the designer is putting a lot of effort into designing, and then they realize, oops, I got a couple of more information and I don't know where to put it. Oh, look, there's some space at the bottom. Boom, let me put it there. Oh, there's some space at the top left. Boom, let it there. So, thank you. Boom. Don't do that, folks.
You mean don't mimic you, or don't put it in the corner?
Oh, no. You can mimic me with all due respect. I'm fine with that. Thank you. Don't block the space. Remember, space is your best friend. You don't want to kill your best friend, do you? You don't want to kill that space that is giving the breathing room for those big, beautiful, nice, tight typography in the middle of the page. So by putting the journal for graphic design at the bottom right, we're suffocating the space. And then we're doing the same thing by putting January, February at the top left corner. Let's take those out. And if we cover those, we can see how we can breathe. If we cover those for just a second, yeah.
You want to get rid of this?
Yeah, just for temporarily, so people can see, if you cover them, how the layout looks. Ah, look at that. Oh, I can breathe now. And then if we also cover January, February, just temporarily cover it. Okay, thank you. All right, now the eye begins to flow rhythmically, right?
Mm-hmm.
In order to push and pull this, we need to now, because the box, the height of the two negative spaces are almost the same size. Let's see if we can decrease one of them and increase the other one to create a more asymmetrical dynamic layout. And how would we do this? Maybe we'll push it down a little bit.
Okay.
Maybe we'll make resonate. This is 2 sizes, 2 weights, right?
Yes. So you want to push it a little bit?
Maybe we can take advantage of, okay, that's even better. That's even nice, crisp, beautiful. We can even take the whole area of 8 and the rest of the body copy and push that up a little bit. No, oh no, it didn't work. Yeah, it didn't work. How about this? How about if we take features and the remaining of the body copy and push it up, the whole entire body copy, and then let's put, just see. Okay, it's working, but then we're creating the staircase effect.
Yes, the old staircase.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we push 8 all the way up and then take the whole entire body copy, bring it down, and see what happens to that. What do you think, Chris? No, now it's playing the piano.
I know exactly what you're doing.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're doing, and you're trying to like free up some space. So I have some thoughts on how to do this.
Please.
Okay, let's try. So I thought we were off to a good thing by saying we free up space up at the top here by pushing the type down. We can still read it. What if we were to either push it this way or push it this way and just free up some space? Now,
nice.
Take one just for a minute. I know that we just told you like the tops of the letter forms are easier to read. True, but we're just exploring the layout right now. And so now look what we've done. We've opened up the space. We haven't changed practically anything just yet, except for to shift the crop, if you will. Okay, like this is what photographers do. They look through the frame and they find the part that's interesting, and that's the picture that they take. You, in this case, are looking at your own layout, your subject, and you're just going to crop it differently. Now, by doing this, I think we give ourselves a little bit more freedom. Before, we've talked about how to create something that feels evenly uneven, like it has a going up and a down and kind of up, a kind of mountaintop kind of vibe, versus the shape that we had before. That's the before and this is the after, right? So we can try now maybe to take this and lower it and see if we can create something that's got a little bit nicer rhythm. So when we talk about space, if we take this and we separate it a little bit, like what happens? And we want to explore all these things. So when you're doing this layout at home, kind of just look at your layout to see what else that you can do. So I think Milka's instinct to push this all the way out was a good one. I just don't know how far we can push it out. And this is also the problem with all uppercase, because the forms are very blocky. It's heavier. And I think you did this on purpose to kind of create the skyline, if you will. It's like a vertical building, and it's very blocky. Whereas upper and lowercase letters, they have, I guess now I can't find it. They have more interesting forms that are easier to read. They feel a little less rigid. I think there's still problems with this. So the last thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take this whole thing. And I told you guys before too, you can't change the dimension of the page, but you can change the size of the type. And this type is probably a little bit on the big side. It could stand to be reduced a little bit. So I'm gonna reduce it down. And I think every time we make one of these decisions, kind of just start to get a sense like, oh, space is starting to open
Ooh,
up a little bit. Like, what can
I
we
can
do?
breathe. Yeah, nice job. Nice job.
Milka can breathe, and it's important for Milka to breathe. Okay.
And so people are asking what was wrong with the staircase in the beginning and how do you address looking at staircases?
Again, staircase is a very signified form and shape that you're looking at it. When I see a staircase, what am I thinking? Staircase. I'm not thinking about resonate and salt baths and all these other features, right?
So is it more so the pattern of it?
Yeah, you got to be aware of that.
It's that the unintended shape that you create is the thing that people start to look at, and you just want to be aware of it.
Yeah, the unintended shape, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this still needs a lot of love, guys, and we're just trying to identify some of the problems. I'm not saying that this is like a work of art ready to hang in a modern art. It's far from it. I think part of the problems too is I don't know if this is Roboto or one of those typefaces, but Lutfan had said that he didn't have the typeface. So even in the design of the typeface, I already had the weird feeling on this G. I just don't love this G.
Yeah.
It's just messing me up, guys.
Yeah. Chris, this is a good opportunity now to bring back those little elements that we hidden and then use those as the satellite to bring in, okay, but not at those places. Yes, sweet. You read my mind.
Working on it. You may be the mind of the only woman that I can read, because otherwise it's a mystery to me.
Thank you. What a compliment is that? We're the sister and brother from different parents.
A sister from another mister, as they would say, or a brother from another mother. Okay, so we got to work on this, guys. And just so we're having this conversation right now, I want to show you the difference between these letter forms. So I'm gonna go and make this thing white and rotate it. Look, and you got me doing sound effects now, and I'm typing 8. Okay, I want you guys to become sensitive to these forms. Look at this G from Helvetica, and this is, which G is this? This is a Helvetica Neue, and look at the G here with the stem and the spur. It's like, it's so beautiful. And then look at this G. It's flat here on the side. This one's rounded. The proportions feel better. The X height, the crossbar of this G is higher. So it's a higher X height than this one. This one's like right around the middle point. This one's much higher. Yeah. So I want you guys to become sensitive. So like when you walk into a building, an art exhibition, and you see this typography on the wall, which is very functional. People read that to understand the art and the artist. But you're looking at like from the eye of a designer, like, gosh, those are just really beautiful letter forms, and it's beautifully typeset, nice spacing, really good leading. So those are the things I want you to become sensitive to. Okay.
Chris, if I may add to what you just said, if you bring that G back, the Helvetica G, notice the spur of the G is an arrow, and that's how you know that's Helvetica. Do you see the arrow at the terminal of the?
So I can draw on top of it so that
please
I can clearly see it. Let me give it a color so that.
And that's how you know that's the. It's a family of the Helvetica. Yes, there's a arrow coming up. Beautiful.
Is that the arrow you're talking about?
That's it. Perfect.
Yeah. There you go.
And you can take advantage of that depending on what you're intending to do, actually. Like go. G-O.
Yes, go.
Use the arrow, make it really prominent.
Mm-hmm.
Aha.
Yeah, you guys get the idea. I'm going to delete it. Okay. So we got to work on this a little bit more. Okay. Now, I want to look at this layout here from Joshua Gilley. Joshua Gilley, this is a hot mess. A little bit of a hot mess, I have to say. There's a lot of stuff going on. And I think you could totally make this layout work. couple of ideas to play around with here, but I think you took Milka's advice to make it tight. Darn. I could see that, but ooh, it needs some love. So Milka, let's identify some things that are problematic.
I want to give the kudos to Joshua for really taking an idea and going all the way to the other side, because we never know till we try it. And I really appreciate for going really tight. What happens here is now we need to give it some love. Obviously, the stroke of the letter R with the stroke of the letter N, they're not aligned. That's something that it's really bothering me right there. Exactly.
Okay, boom.
Yeah. When I see that, then I get the feeling that the designer could have spent a little bit more time. I know you spent a lot of time figuring this out, but those little details also shows that you are really aware of the whole entire form and shape, paying attention to make it work.
Yes.
And obviously
right here, you see these little things that get cut off?
Yes. And obviously the E and the S, they're not speaking to each other. It's like they're having a car crash. Boom. I was going to do a sound effect. Bang. There's a big bang. And then the 8, what is that behind the 8, if I may ask? Is that an S?
Yes, an S.
Okay. I'm not 8S. Resin.
It's like reading ass. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know what it says.
Okay. I have to say again, I like the direction that Joshua is going, but it's not there yet. And what I was a little bit, I'm sorry, I'm going to give a little bit tough love here. I apologize, because we've talked about this, you guys. I've been on this show. What is this? This is my third or fourth. Third time. Okay. We've already talked about this twice, about how be aware of things that are equal amount of space. So we're doing the same exact thing here. We're dividing things up in equal amount of space. The top portion is almost equal as the bottom space portion. If we cover features, if we just put a white box over where it says features and everything else, just a white box temporarily. Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
The whole entire area, Chris, please.
Sure.
Thank you. All the way to the edge, at the bottom edge. Continue. Nice. Beautiful. Okay, see, what do we see? We see yin yang, right? White space at the top left and the bottom white space at the bottom. That's a yin yang. Be aware of that space. You can't just say, oh, I have some space there. Boom, I'm going to put some text in there and it's going to work itself out. No, they are still fighting with each other. That top space is fighting with that bottom space. Resin, where RES is dividing it in half. Almost. Right? And we have the 8 at the top and we have the N at the bottom. Maybe that's the most interesting part of the layout, where the 8 is pushed to the right and the N is pulled to the left. Maybe that's the only interesting part, but the rest is not solving itself at all. I want to give you one more kudos. I like where the January and February is sitting between the 8 and the E. Thank you for that yin-yang metaphor.
Took me a little while to drag that sucker in here. Keep talking.
I like where the January, February is sitting between the 8 and the E. You might say, ooh, that looks like a sandwich where the 8 is crushing the E. Yes. But at the same time, because everything else is a mishmash, to me, that comes across like something that is working. At least I know there's a beautiful tension that's happening there. Be aware of that, not in a negative way, but also in a positive way, that it could work for you. But right now, everything is a mush-posh, or hodgepodge, I should say.
Hodgepodge, yep.
Hodgepodge.
A mishmash, hodgepodge, a mush. I don't know. There's like, how many ways can we say that? All right, sorry. I don't know why, but my throat gets really dry right before these things. Okay, let's look at this, guys. I made a copy here, the yin, the yang, you know, the equal and opposite kind of thing. And it was very sharp of Milka just to see that like that. she could just see it. It wasn't so easy for me to see it. I have problems with legibility. I have problems with hierarchy, and I have a lot of other issues here. So what I want to do is I want to hide this. I'm going to hide it. Okay. And it should really be the opposite of this. So let's just take all this. I'm going to break your layout. It's probably going to look really ugly for a while. So I have to unlock that. I'm going to just change the order. I'm not going to really change the concept that you're having here, but I just want to change the order. So now at least I could read this, resonate, right? And it still has issues. It's got some challenges that we have to work through. And let's try this thing where you take the type and you push it a little bit farther so that there's a more distinctive shape. And because I pushed the S so far out, I want to bring it back. Luckily for us, the N is very easy to read. So there's a lot of room that we can play around with. So when Milka was talking about before, those little details, either say that I'm paying attention or I'm asleep at the wheel. Those things do matter to us a lot. And the other question I have is, does it need to have very tight lighting like this? I'm not sure. And I'm going to just bump it out a little bit. In case you guys are doing this on a Mac, it's Option down arrow on your keypad, right? So what happens there? And it's not exactly on right now, but pretend like it's really aligned. Does that make a more interesting or stronger shape or connection? I don't know. I'm going to go the opposite way, which is to hold on Option and bring it up. How far can we push this stuff before we lose all sense of legibility? Okay. Now,
I'm sorry, Chris, to interrupt you. Be aware of the shapes that we're creating. Like right now, when we have the R and the N connected to each other, look at that negative shape that we see between the opening, between the crotch of the leg of the R and the crotch of the letter N.
Yes. You call the crotch the crotch. I call the counter. It's
counter.
An open counter. Yes, the open counters are connected. It's almost like a lightning bolt or something.
Okay. Yes.
Now, we probably could use a little scale change here. Probably, maybe. I'm going to just try. Of course, it may not work. I'm going to scale it down a little bit. I just want to help Milka breathe. I'm doing
oxygen is important.
Very, very important. We don't breathe enough. Okay. So see, like we're not even changing it that much, but it's creating a different dynamic, it's a different relationship. I, of course, need to bring all the other type back. We got to work on this a little bit more, but just think about it. Now, the reason why I picked this, Joshua, is not to pick on you per se, but because I saw something super interesting. I want to share that with you right now. So if I turn this layer here, the 8 and the S that you created here, it looked like something to me. And I was trying to recreate this look really fast in Illustrator, but there are other ways to create this. So I just took the letter and I chopped it up and I multiplied it across because I thought there was something interesting in terms of an idea. The word resonate feels like ripples to me. Like in my mind, that's how I visualize it. So I just started this process and I just took the letter. And if the title itself, Resonate the Magazine, communicated what it meant, like Kyle Cooper refers to this as a visual pun, it looks like what it means. And sometimes those are very interesting relationships to explore. So if we brought all the type back and we just made this a focal point, it could be very interesting. So I see something here. I think there's an idea that could be born from this. It's really unresolved right now in terms of like what I'm trying to do, but you guys can start to play around with that kind of stuff. I can even increase the spacing. Go ahead.
It's beginning to look edgy, Chris. And I think maybe that's what
a compliment.
I think that's what Joshua was aiming for. It's to make it look edgy. And now, even on the left area, I see it. I see that edginess developing itself.
Yeah, we're getting somewhere here, and we like you guys trying. So keep trying, but then learn how to bring it back from the tricks that you're applying to it, so that it feels solid and resolved again. That's the key. That's the hard part.
And folks, Chris said it beautifully. This is the beauty of experimental or edgy design. No one's going to get killed. No one. It's all safe. It's all good. So push. Here's what I always say. Design with your foot on the gas pedal. You can always bring it back. You can always edit it out. Okay, and that's what Joshua's doing. He's designing with his foot on the gas pedal, but now he needs to step back and see where can he pull and push certain areas, and that's exactly what Chris is showing you.
So we don't need to use a lot of tricks at this point. I just need to put in a little bit of information to complete this thing. I think it's this piece and this piece. Copy that. Put it back in here. And maybe we'll have some kind of layout soon. I don't know. You know, we have to work out where these things go. This dash is creating some problems for me.
Yeah, it's
right?
not functional.
It's not functional, and it's taking space. It's visually kind of interesting, but it's not helping me here, and it's a challenge. So everything that I add to this layout now becomes a challenge. This is the puzzle. They're all delicate parts, like spinning plates. The more plates you have spinning, the harder it becomes for you to balance. And we've got a lot of things going on right now. So my instinct is to make this thing super, super simple, because otherwise we're going to start competing with this other stuff on the screen.
Exactly. It's like, especially ladies, you might relate to this. It's like starting with a clean face before you put makeup on.
Oh, I could totally relate.
How?
Can you tell me more? I'm waiting for you to finish it. Yeah.
I'm wondering, Chris, you put makeup on?
Oh, you don't know?
Maybe Halloween.
Well, we all have our skincare regimen, you know, so.
Okay, good. And that's exactly what this is the beauty of these series of exercises, is you starting with almost no parameters, where it's only one size, one weight, and you're learning about the whole space. And then little by little, as you're increasing each parameter, you're developing how I can make this even more cooked, how I can create more depth, how I can create visual of hierarchy. So have all of this running in your head as you're designing, step by step. And you're right, this week was very, very challenging. And if we don't learn those first fundamental steps, then we're going to be just hodgepodging throughout the rest of the exercises. And with all due respect, it was going to be like as if I'm sinking, but I'm not swimming.
Okay. All right. So let's keep going here. I want to zoom out and find another layout to work on. Milka, was there one that you saw that you really wanted to work on?
I'll be honest with you. I saw a lot that I thought to myself, I like to point out what not to do.
Okay. So here we are. I'll point out some things, what not to do.
Great.
So I'm looking at this layout. I laid a grid over it, or some lines, so you guys can see. Here's the original layout. And this is from Heung Min Zhao, I think, or Zhao. And here we go. So I put some red lines over it. So a couple of things I noticed right away. Like, what the heck is this little corner thing? That's bothering me, right? So that's why I circled in red. And then I'm looking at the grid lines here. It seems like you're trying to line things. And at first I thought you were cheating, because I'm like, we're not allowed to use shapes just yet. I'm going to lock this because it's annoying me, right? We're not allowed to use shapes, but then it's the underscore. So you kind of snuck in there with a technicality, and then you were able to reverse the type out of that. Okay. What else can we do here? So I looked at this and I looked at alignment. Every time you guys do these off-axis things, it's like to create interest. I get it. You want to do it. Just make sure it's a good layout before you start doing that, because it's infinitely harder to work with. So what I did here, this is the before, this is the after. I did this right before getting on the show here today. I just changed some things. One is I reduced the scale of the type resonate down, and I was able to then push the Z off the page. So I don't need to read it twice. So I lose that little thing in the bottom. And I kept your underscore, right? And then the rest of the elements I reordered. So when it looked like you were doing features down here, and then it was wrapping, excuse me, it was wrapping up to the top there. It was kind of a strange thing, and it didn't need to, because it could communicate the same idea. So I just took the same grid line. This is where it gets tricky, because once you rotate your layout, and I don't know the angle, it becomes a lot harder for me to work with. Okay. So there it is. So features, and then it continues on. And I wanted to break it so that there are only 3 names at the top and more at the bottom. So there's greater contrast. I didn't want it to be even like 5 and 5. I just wanted it to be like 3 and 8 or something like that. And then I know the angle is a little bit off here, but I took the rest of your type and I just put it along here to kind of imply the line that goes here, these grid lines that are created. So I made that type work with the baseline, and that's all I did for this layout.
Chris, may I jump in and add more to what you're saying?
Please.
I love what you did. Yes, that was a very good solution to simplify that. I saw this layout, and when I saw it, I go, wow, beautiful. But then something was not right about it. And I thought about it, and I'm going, it's that almost again. The bottom and the top resonate is almost sitting in the middle of the page, but diagonally. So what if we push and pull? Again, we talked about laws of third, you guys. Law of thirds, I should say. What if we grab the whole entire composition and move it up? Beautiful. And then maybe a little bit to the right, please. Okay. And then what if we take the remaining body copy of the artist and track, I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk about track. I'm talking about leading, and open the leading. So there's so now you see how your eye goes around. Beautiful, beautiful. Now there's one more little thing we need to do here. That little space next to the terminal of the Z is bothering me. Something needs to take your eye out so we can bring your eye back in with the R.
You're talking about this little sucker here? A little gap or some other part?
I'm talking about the terminal of the shape of the Z. The terminal is the end, the very end part of the Z.
You're talking about this?
Yes. So, and the space next to it is empty. So we need a little some tiny little line to take our eye out. So then it brings it back from the R. And when we do that, then what if we do that? What if we do this? What if we just put it like maybe we can put a 2018?
What's that?
Okay, that works. That works too. Wow, sweet. That works very well. I love it. Talking about edgy.
Well, we're gonna refine this layout just 1 second here because I realize, see this little corner here? This is
Yes.
like when we're on step 5. Remember the steps, guys? Okay, let's look at the steps. Step 5, the details. And Milka was talking about the negative space. I lost where I was. Okay. She was talking about the negative space, right? Like she wanted to activate this space by putting something there. And I think what we need to do is just to shift it to the right a little bit. And as soon as I do that, I'm going to break something else. I already know it. So we can bring the Z back a little bit if we want to. Okay. Yeah. And then this got chopped off. I'm not bothered by that, but there you go.
Yeah, those details. Yeah, we can. Also, you got to be careful with how the feature is touching the edge of the page as well. That creates a tension as well. Mm-hmm. So we may have to wiggle it around a little bit to clean that up. Sure.
You want me to wiggle the features?
Yeah, maybe bring it down a little bit to create a little bit of space.
Every time I bring fudge.
Just the features, just a tad. Okay. Yeah. All right. And then if we zoom out a little bit so we can see the comparison between the two. Yeah, all right. Nice. I would probably at this moment now, I think this is working out beautifully. The one on the right, of course, and the one on the left. But the one on the right, we probably want to reduce the space between the leading of the RE and then N8. The leading. And Chris, something really awesome happened here when you zoomed out. Is on the left side, notice how we have created a trapped space between letter N and the number 8. Folks, do you see that as Chris is doing that?
What space are you talking about?
Oh, gorgeous, Chris. Beautiful. On the left design, what I'm noticing, zoom out, please.
Okay, sorry, I had to fix something. All right.
Okay. Do you see the space, the trap space that is between N, RE, 8, and the line? That's a trap space right there.
You're talking about this space?
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's a trap space. I'm like, I can't breathe. Why am I being prisoned? So be aware of these things. Maybe you meant it. Maybe it is about the room at the museum, about resonate.
Did you just say that with an accent or something?
Yes, the room.
What kind of accent is that?
It's a French or I don't know, Israeli accent.
Yes, maybe Israeli accent. Okay.
Spectre Cruiser, the room.
Okay. Anyways, so you can see the before and after. I think to the untrained eye, maybe before you took this course, maybe you've not had this kind of critique or guidance in looking at type, but now you should be able to see the clear differences. And we're not fundamentally starting over here. We're just making some very small adjustments, but these adjustments can change everything.
Yeah, nice job. Chris, we still have that box though on the right side. That trapped space.
Yes.
Do we need to have that? Could we have that line vertical?
This underscore?
Yeah, underscore. Could we make it maybe perpendicular? I don't know, but then it's not going to make sense.
Yeah, it's a different symbol then. I mean, I could try. I mean, everything's worth trying. So this is like, I think this symbol.
Ooh, you created a pipeline. I like that. A pipe. Nice. But then you have to put a little bit of a space.
Yeah, there's some other issues.
Yeah, it's too thick.
It's too thick, and it's kind of strange. So what we can do possibly is just to space this out a little bit more, and then maybe that space becomes a little bit more open for Milka. I'm not sure, but as you can see, every time we move something else breaks, right? So it's something to be aware of, and we can open it up. This doesn't bother me so much, so it's probably okay for me, but you guys could try it.
Good job. Good job.
You have to keep working on it. Okay, let's move on. Let's see what else I can look at. Oh, this one's killing me right now. Max Douglas. So let's turn on the grid. So here's what I did. I just put a box over everything like I've been doing. And it's creating this strange layout for me. It's like you're cutting up the space. And then I also realize these are not at 90-degree angles. It's kind of random and a little arbitrary. And then we have this bit here, which is like, there's so many different things going on here. And I'm having a hard time resolving this one. Milka, talk to me.
I think Max, I understand. I'm trying to understand what Max has done.
Yeah.
He's saying, look at me, resonate. Everything, resonate, He's almost there. Max, I appreciate this conceptual layout. I look at it conceptually because honestly, everything's like resonate. Now, what probably is bothering Chris is the flatness of the typography. This would have been a fantastic layout for the previous week where it was 2 sizes, 1 weight, but maybe resonate is bold. I'm not sure. This would have been a good layout, but now that we're here where we can use 2 sizes, 2 different weights, what else can we do to push and pull this?
I don't know.
I think it is what it is for 2 sizes, 1 weight. I would probably, if I were going to do anything with this, I would probably even make it more extreme, bring it up to the top right. And again, take advantage of the law of third. Yes, there you go.
So when you start using type as illustrative elements, which is what I think this is, as lines or arrows pointing to something, you're definitely stepping to the experimental realm. And I appreciate that wholeheartedly. The problem I have with this is like, you didn't get experimental enough. You're caught in that space between thought out, gridded, functional design, and then you're trying to do expressive type. And I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to look for something right now. So Milka, while I'm looking for something, maybe you can help us out and just talk through this layout a little bit more. And I'm something, okay?
Maybe it's a little bit too clean and too structured. When I one of the suggestions that I like to give, and I don't know how this can work because we're working online digitally, is I'm curious to know if you take a pair of scissors and cut these up, and then take a piece of paper and then arrange them down, not so precisely, but like maybe a little bit off and, quirky. See what happens with that. That might be a way of waking this layout up. Because right now, it's a little bit flat. It does have that boom, one focal point, but then the rest is just like dead, silent. So if we were going to perk this up, the question is, can I maybe cut and paste what I have? That would be another exercise to try it out. I love that, Chris.
Okay.
Dadaism.
Yes, I'm gonna hide this, right? So when you start to get into like super expressive type, you might want to look up Dada, like Dada, D-A, Dadaism, right? And typography. So this is very expressive. It's kind of almost like a painting with words and letter forms. And I'll show you another example here. So this is kind of, I love this stuff, by the way, and it's really beautiful, and it's kind of difficult to do. As you guys have seen now, when you open up what you want to try, everything gets inherently more complicated, and there are a lot of variables to play with. So all you have to do is look up Dada, D-A-D-A, and you'll start to see this kind of stuff. Okay. And it's very expressive. Like here's another one. Let me grab one more.
And remember, Dadaism was a movement that was rebelling against what was before them, which was very structured and clean. Well, not clean, but it was very structured. And it was at a turn of a time where we were about to go into a war.
So this is from Kurt Schwitters. And
nice.
Beautiful. So like when we talk about like lines, so when I look at this, I'm reminded a little bit of like, hey, you're going to try and push it, but you haven't pushed it enough. That's the problem.
It's got good potential. The idea is great, but it's not there yet in terms of form, especially with typography.
Yes.
Yeah. So friends, again, ask yourself some of these principles of designs. How am I using contrast? How am I using contrast of space? And I think Max is using contrast of space. We pushed it a little bit more. Contrast of position, he's putting different directions. Contrast of form. Right now we're dealing with typography, direction, structure, size. I think what's missing here is contrast of size. We got only 2 contrasts. Right now we're at a time where we can use 3 different layers. Why is it 3? Because you got size and weight, and you've got 2 different sizes and 2 different weights that you can start playing with one another to create density and texture.
Yeah. So I'm going to do something with this. Okay.
Nice.
It feels like this is trying to be a part of another design, like it's really organized, and then this isn't really, and it's got its own vibe. This has been outlined because I don't have this typeface, but I think if you're going to do something, just try to break it. Like if nothing is alignment and everything is a little bit off, just have fun with it and see what happens.
Nice.
Right. So it's like now it's kind of like in a little explosion there. And since this has been outlined already, I'm going to just flip it over because I just generally don't like flush right type. Okay, I'm going to flip it over. Let's just pretend like that wasn't flipped over. I just want to look at the shape. And I want to see if I can bring some of this together. Maybe just make it a little bit more angry or expressive, like you're taking bits of things and you're taping them together and you've created something. I don't know. It's still not good, right?
What if we move it at the top of the resonate? Because the align left needs to have a backbone of something. Good.
You're talking about something like that?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if you heard me.
Isn't that what you told me to do?
No. I love how you interpret some of the things I say. It even turns out better than what I thought. Chris, I don't know if you heard me, but I was telling folks is that sometimes you might want to cut and paste. Like this would be a great layout where you just cut it up and relay it out, so it does come a bit quirky and funky and have that vibe to it that you're trying to create right now. Beautiful.
So if I were to maybe put this on top.
Oh, nice.
Right.
Nice. I like that space.
Come on. Did it go behind it? Ah, maybe it didn't work. But
ooh, beautiful.
You can play, guys. You could subtract things.
Nice.
So adding something, I'm just subtracting things from it, and who knows what we're going to produce because of this, right? And I think when we say like you're going to need to push this.
Good job. Good job.
See what happens?
Oh my God. Wow. Wow. That's so dynamic. Beautiful.
So we bring this type back.
No, don't bring it back.
But we're missing some. Gotta make it work somehow. You know, what happens? Well, we created some space here. I think I could make it work, Milka.
Actually, I like this too.
You know, I think I can make it work. Like, you guys, if you're gonna break it, just break it all the way. But it takes a lot of design know-how to really make this thing work. So what I was trying to do here is I'm gonna paint on this. Shift this. I'm gonna paint on it. So if I'm looking at this, I see a flow here, and I'm just trying to get these things to work together. That's what I'm trying to make work, right? Yeah. Cool. When we get into lines, you guys are gonna have a lot of fun because there's ways to make this work. I'm gonna give you a little preview as to when you start to open up options. Watch this. See how these things are not really related together? I just draw a little line. I can start to anchor things together, imply a relationship that may or may not exist, right?
I think Chris is giving you guys a little bit of a sneak peek preview of next week, which you're using lines. Is it next week?
I don't know. Mark will tell us later. But when we get to use lines and shapes, a world of possibilities open up. But we want to be careful because until we start to understand the fundamentals, which is what we're working on here, it may be a total disaster, and we don't want to do that, right? And I just want to show you, like, when we start to break it, you can actually create things that do feel like some kind of expressive piece of art.
Now, I love it.
The problem here is almost always the default point size of 12, regular typeface, you know, the weight, and is this 1 point? Let me see. Yeah, it's almost always the ugliest. So we just take this and we just drop it down to, say, 0.5 point. It just gets more interesting because the lines get cooler. And if we take this, watch this, now total sidebar kind of tangent here, but what if we change this to 10 points? And then things start to become really interesting when you play with different line weights, because it's almost like a different form of type that you're working with. Okay.
Oh my God, I can't believe how exciting. Oh my God, that's just so gorgeous. I would pay for that poster.
Good. In lieu of paying you. No, I'm just kidding. Look, Milka and I are both doing this for free to help educate the public here. So you guys
really
appreciate what's going on. We're taking time from our lives. The last thing I might want to do is too, is like, we pushed this over, but I didn't push it enough. I was thinking, gosh, what if, let me see here. I just make sure my keyboard shortcuts are working here. Is I just break the baseline a little bit more so that it crosses over in a weird way. There's lots of little fun things we're going to be able to get to do. And you see here, see these little letters peeking out beyond that? It kind of creates its own tension or whatever. Okay, so if we're going to break it all the way, it's what I'm saying. And you might be shocked. The internet's going to be mad at us, Milka.
Mm-hmm.
I've had this happen many times before because most people on the internet don't have formal training. They don't have the rigor. The program that you and I have been able to go to, we're both very privileged to go to an amazing design school, art center, and study under masters of design. And what you do is you start to learn all these rules, and then when you know how it works, you also know how to tweak it and break it and then make it something really, really cool. Like instinctively, because I've done this thousands of times, I know what to do. But what the internet does is they learn a few rules. They're like, oh, align and centered and balance, proportion, and scale. And so when they see something like this, they're like, I don't get it. Chris made it worse. Like, it's not even legible right now.
This is exactly like what I was talking about, classic music. You hear classic music and you go, I don't get it. But then a good classic music is just a masterpiece. And that's exactly what you've created.
Wow. Well, we're working on something here, and this is the difference. Like, people can really appreciate photorealistic drawing and rendering because it looks like something they recognize and they know.
Yeah.
But to me, I've always appreciated the abstractionists, the cubists, the Dadaists who really broke an image to show something that has their hand in it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And may I add one more element to this, is that you can't take a design like this and apply it to, let's say your client is People magazine or Fortune magazine. You can't do that. This is not the right audience.
Right.
You have to be aware who's the right audience. Right now, the audience for this category are architects, designers, and that's why you can get away with pushing it to the abstractness of it and making it even more exciting, because that's what artists do. They push the edge of the envelope. Yeah,
some do. So now I'm looking at this more like a painting and less like functional typography, but
yes,
we digress. So let's keep going. So I want to take a quick break here because we have 34 lovely people have joined us now. We've grown by 4 people who are part of this amazing community and people who are aspiring typographers. I want to turn it over to you guys for a second. Do you guys have a question? I mean, you're here, you're live with us. I want to take advantage of the fact, if you can just raise your hand, your digital hand, or just make some movement like this, and then Mark will then message you, or okay, there we go. Who's that? I can't even read your name. Go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey.
So, question.
Yes. Thanks again for reviewing all our work. It really helps me to understand how I can improve my designs. I, however, find myself often going into monkey mode and trying every possible option to see what works. I think that's a term you used in one of the videos. Can you explain maybe what the steps you take in your mind when you take a step back and look at where you are? If that makes sense.
Yes. And I'm going to answer that, but I'm going to throw the ball to Milka first.
Oh boy, you caught me off guard, dude.
I know, I did that on purpose. I saw you reaching for something. I'm like, let me pick Milka right now. Milka, did you hear the question?
No, please repeat.
Okay. So basically he's like, I have so many options, and he gets into monkey brain mode and he's like, just like throwing stuff. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I could do so much. He wants to know the process that you go through when you're designing something so that he might pick up a clue here. So Milka, what do you do?
Okay, thank you for asking that question. Beautiful. I think we touched based on this a few minutes ago. Is the way I like this is what this assignment has taught me, is whenever I'm confused, is always start from one size, one weight, the least amount of parameters as possible. I do the layout, and then from there, I start to cook it. What do I mean by start cooking it? I push and pull it by using different sizes. I push and pull it by using different weights. Again, contrast is very much the mother of it all. Contrast of space, contrast of size, contrast of weight, and so on and so forth. So you have to really get those elements down first before you can progress more forward. That's one area, practicing. Area number 2 is you have to be a visual literate, just like a writer who reads a lot in order to become a better writer. As artists and designers, we need to look a lot. We need to see a lot of visual work done by different designers and artists so we can become visually more literate. So history of design is a very powerful class to also take in conjunction with what you're doing right now. And both of this can really fuel one another. And of course, then there's feedback that you get from other people to improve your work. So these are some of the basic suggestions that I like to give you to get you going if you're ever confused.
All right. Thank you very much for doing that. And I'll allow you to finish reaching for whatever you're reaching, and we'll continue the conversation.
I'm good. I'm done. And folks, here's the other thing. You know how it's so much easier for us to give feedback to other people? It's because we're not looking at it subjectively. We're looking at it objectively. So look at your work objectively. What if it's somebody else's work, not yours? Cut the umbilical cord, and you'll be surprised how you'll see so many amazing solutions right in front of your eyes.
That sounded more like a bottle being opened when you say cut the umbilical. I imagine it more like a
Ouch, that hurts.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. That's like the tape measure guy. Yeah. It's like this sound here. Here, cut the umbilical cord.
Okay.
Right. Let's
grab scissors, yeah.
Okay, you know what? We started at 11. It is now 12:25. We're an hour and 25 minutes. We started a little bit late, but let's pick up the pace a little bit. First, I want to say something to Cole Fraser, who could not join us because you know why? Cole Fraser's having a baby. He's a new dad. Congrats, Cole.
Congratulations.
Excellent. But, as soon as his wife delivers or maybe the baby's out and he gets a little bit of sleep and catches a little shut-eye.
Oh, it looks like he's on, actually.
Oh, he's on. Well, what are you doing here? Take care of the baby. But we just want to say congrats, Cole. Okay, now, being a new papa and all, here's Cole.
Yeah, if Cole is on, I'd love to talk about his work.
Here it is. Let's talk about it.
Okay. Cole, I love how... Thank you, Chris. There are some beautiful things that are happening with your design. First of all, I want to focus on the top left corner, that area where you have the Journal of Graphic Design, Resin 8. What a beautiful grouping you've done here. This is what I'm talking about, relationship. There's a relationship between the Journal of Graphic Design and Resin 8. And I love how you're using 2 different sizes and 2 different weights. Good job, good job. This is what I'm talking about. At this moment, this area is a bit of an island for itself. And then I like how you did use a very, very light text for the remaining, which is in this issue, graphic discourse, la, la, la. Let's come back to that later. And then let's move towards the bottom portion of your layout. And I love how it's nice and tight typography, and you're starting bold in contrast to light, and you have snuggled the word feature right between the S and the L in the word solve. Yes, you're really paying attention, and I can tell you're having a good time. By the way, folks, here's another trick. If you're not having a good time, you're not doing it right. And I bet you anything Cole was having a good time doing this. And if you're feeling frustrated, that's a good thing, because frustration promotes you to even take more action and to figure out and solve problems. Right, Chris?
That's right. I see how you picked on me as soon as I get
I have to get back at you.
All right. I see you, Milka.
That would be equal. Okay, so if we zoom out a little bit, and Cole, what a beautiful little detail of where you have the date in light and then the 18 in bold. But here's what's happening now. The question is how we can take all these different elements at different places, bring them together from a focal point of view and let them speak away from each other. Thank you, Chris. You are so good at understanding exactly what I'm talking about. It's brilliant. You just translate visually. Awesome. So, Chris, what I would like to do is I want to see how I can bring the backbone. I see a backbone where the name of the artists are, and I see where Resonate is. And somehow what I want to do is I want to probably rotate it, or if not rotate it, bring the Resonate where it speaks to the bottom area of that backbone area. So right now we're not the whole Resonate area. Exactly. If we group that, and then somehow we have them talk to one another. Ooh, look at that. That is just so damn sexy. Wow. Wow.
My wife said yesterday, so.
Wow. You're just brilliant. With just 2 clicks, boom. I can't believe it. Okay, Chris, how would you take care of the top portion where it says in this feature? Because that's right now sitting as a silo.
Yes.
You know what I said about silo pieces?
Yes.
That we don't want tears for them.
We don't. We don't. I don't know. I'm having
How
hard
about
time connecting it.
let's how about we rotate it vertically, 45 rotate it 90 degrees. Awesome. And then maybe align it with Sol Bass or Resonate or somewhere around there.
Yeah. You want to align it with the cap?
Oh no, I like where you were going. Ooh.
Where was I going?
I just, your intuition is just so amazing. Ooh, that's edgy.
It is edgy. Oh, behave. All right.
That is so edgy. Folks, you know what? Forget about designing. Just hire Chris and I will do it for you.
Okay. Maybe we should talk about that for a second. You can't hire me because I'm just not available and I'm probably way too expensive, right? But Milka, I mean, you're available because you are a creative director, a design director for a company. If they need you, how does one get in touch with you? I mean, look, guys, let's just be real. I'm talking about business for a second here. Milka is out of the goodness and of her own heart, just being very gracious, spending an hour and a half, 2 hours with us for 3 weeks now. So it's 6 hours of her time that she just can't get back. But so I need to mention
without getting compensated.
Yes. Somebody's gonna get a hot poster from this for me later, a PDF, like, mwah. Okay. But so if you're a big company, you're a big corporation, you need an amazing designer with her kind of eye, her trained eye. How do they get in touch with you, Milka?
I would love that. I would love, you know, one thing that I really enjoy is to empower people. I love co-creating with people, and that's exactly what we're doing. So I won't come in and, like, you know, do the whole design for you. No. You do the design, and then, you know, like Chris and I, or I come in to where I can empower you even further. I would love to work with you if you need somebody to come in and help you out. Chris, maybe we can put my information at the bottom of the description where they can reach me through Instagram, milka.broukhim. They can reach me on my Facebook public account, which is milka.broukhim.design. And of course, there's my website, milka.design. But try to, if you can reach out and connect with me either through LinkedIn, Instagram, and my public figure on Facebook, that will be awesome. Then we can see how we can reach out to one another and how I can help you.
Yes, but you have some rules. You have some rules, and we should talk about your rules.
Okay, what were the rules?
Well, because you're not exactly a social media beast. So like getting hit with 1,000 requests for connections, and it's just too much for you to deal with. This is what I'm used to, and this is what I'm built for. So when people reach out to you, it's overwhelming. So I think some of your rules are, please remind her what you're interested in, how you know her, because she's combing through hundreds of messages now, and it's just too much. She only has professional connections, people that she actually knows in real life. So this is very difficult for her. So be sure you include some kind of thoughtful note. Keep it short and sweet and be very clear. Yeah. So the other thing that people don't know is that, as you mentioned before, you do private tutoring for designers. Now, it's not cheap, but if you guys need it, if you're in a position to, I'm sure you guys can work something out. Okay. So I just want you guys to be aware of that. I don't want it to go without being said.
And it's whatever Christo charges, I'll charge the same.
She refuses to undercut me, ladies and gentlemen. So
we have to support each other.
Like that. So there's no undercutting in this line of work. Okay, this is perfect. And you guys know my rate; it's $1,000 an hour. So you will work something out. Okay. While we were talking, I just played around with the layout a little bit. I don't think I made it better, but I realized something. When we looked at the layout this way, the thing that we need to read the most, the thing that's hardest to read, is on its side. So I kind of have to cock my head to the left to read it. So I just thought, like, maybe we should just try rotating it a little bit. So it's the same idea, it's the same concept, but it's a little easier for me to read because now I only have to turn my head to read these little parts versus all of this. So that's one thing that I would do. I think the layout still needs some help. It needs some work, and I don't know yet what we need to do to it, but
That's good too. Yeah.
I suspect that there's too much spacing on all these things.
Yeah.
You know?
Chris, I'm going to challenge you on this.
Please.
In fact, if we zoom out a little bit, for me, when this was rotated
Yes.
on a vertical axis, it did not work at all. I was like, oh my God, what happened here? I think the reason it's working the other way around is because all the beautiful white space where the gravity is pulling it down is helping with these lines that they look like they're plants that they're sprouting out of the ground. And these are artists. They don't need to be mainstream, regular reading direction. They can have a different direction. And to me, right now, what it resonates is like as if a seed has been planted and we've got Saul Bass growing out, we've got Les Bill growing up, growing out of the ground, and so on and so forth. Lou Dazinger, which did you have Lou Dazinger as one of your teachers?
Yeah, but this is Lou Dorsman, but yes.
Oh, sorry.
You did have him. Mm-hmm.
Duh, I can't, okay. All right, Eliziski and so on and so forth. So maybe that's why it's working.
Okay.
And I like what you're doing with on the left side. You're definitely on the right track.
Still trying.
Yes.
I'm working.
Yes. You're so amazing. I don't really care about the in this issue where it's sitting right now. Right now. What if we rotate that vertically in a vertical direction and have it align on the back, on the let's say on the baseline of Resonate.
Like this.
But then could we rotate it 180 degree, please?
Yes.
Yes, and then have it. Yes, something like that.
You like the verticality.
Yeah, the lines are too many. There are too many lines right now. Maybe we need, what did we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 3 lines. Oh, yes. Oof. Good job. Good job. So beautiful. This is what we're talking about, having that spine. So you have that spine and you've got these arms coming out.
Okay. So look, a couple of tweaks here. I think it still needs some work. I'm still feeling something that's not resolved. Obviously, these layouts take a lot of time to get right, for sure. So I'm going to put this one back in because I think Milka really liked this one. And this is like where you guys can see a difference of opinion and preferences, and it's totally okay. It's like, it's not one way of doing anything. So I think somehow
I see it needs a satellite now that I see that. It needs a little satellite where the
how come it got longer? Okay.
We can reduce the size. Oh no, leave that where it was actually. But then we need something. Maybe we can just draw a line just for the sake of it. But we need it at the top. Yes, something vertical, and then maybe now we need to move it to the right, to the left to see how our eye can flow in and out. Now, maybe a little bit to the right, maybe half an inch. Yeah, somewhere, and then to the top. It's right now it's in the middle. How about if we move it all the way above the name of Paul Rand?
Paul Rand.
Somewhere around that vicinity, yes. Good job, good job. A little bit longer, perhaps, but do you see how this is beautiful? This is where your eye goes in and out. You see that? It's like in and out. It's just the eye is rotating all around the page. You want to use the maximum eye view around the whole entire page. We don't have a dead space now. If we didn't have that line above Paul Rand, then the white space would be a dead space. But now we activated it by having that little satellite peeking through. Does that make sense?
Yes. So I think I know how to, maybe if you like this, I'm going to posit or propose that you just do it with typography.
Yes.
Right, so that we don't cheat, because the designer's like, well, they made it work because they cheated. And perhaps you can just make this And
Yes. Nice
your
job.
stuff. There you go.
Nice job. Nice job.
Okay.
Maybe I would, to be even more refined, I would probably switch the 2018 with January. I would put the 2018 up there and move the January where it was before.
All right.
I don't know. Oh, that looks good too. Wow. No, move it. Turn it around. Yes. And then let's do the 2018 now. I love all this serendipitous stuff that you're doing, Chris.
I guess when you don't have use of your hands,
these accidents are just so good. Oh my God, look at that. I see so much movement. This is such a dynamic, sexy layout. Can I say that word? Is that okay? I know it's YouTube. It's what's another appropriate word to say?
Sexy is okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You can say hot. All right. Cole Fraser, congrats for being a dad and for sticking it through and joining us and still so responsible for getting the homework done. I appreciate you, man. And good luck with that child. Here's another one. I think there's this pressure. I want to address this because people have been saying this like, oh, I don't get my thing critiqued. I feel like what I need my work critiqued. Here's the problem. Milka, chime in if you have a different story or experience in this. One of the reasons why I attribute my ability to learn design faster than most of my classmates is this one thing. So this is the part you really, really need to pay attention to, is I noticed that each week the instructor, and in my case, it was a gentleman named Simon Johnson, British designer.
I had the same teacher.
He would critique the work and people would only pay attention. It was their work.
Yes.
As soon as your crit was over, I could see him staring off to La La Land. They would exhale, just a deep breath, like, oh, I'm done. But for me, it was a little different. Every person he was critiquing, I treated it as if it were my work. So instead of getting one crit, I got 20 crits every single class. And how did I know this? How did I know they were not paying attention? Because the very next week, people would come to class. They would do the exact same thing that Mary or Bob or Drake or Billy had done the week before. That's how I knew they weren't paying attention. If Simon specifically said, do not center your type, watch the rag, next week there'd be 6 people, centered the type, didn't watch the rag. It happened over and over again. The point of critique is to learn from what to do and what not to do. And this is a very safe place to do this. So even if you didn't do that work, if you looked at it like, what did I learn from this? And you applied it to your own work, you would grow by leaps and bounds. What we're seeing in this week is we're seeing people repeat the same mistake over and over again. Type is too big, not conscious of the 3 reads, big, medium, and small. They're using typefaces or point sizes that are too big. There's no relationship. There's a lot of broken relationships. People or the elements aren't talking to each other. So you're seeing it happen again and again. So for the purpose of how I think you should learn, lean into every one of these critiques. Treat it as if it were yours, and you'll learn so much more. So we're going to talk about Christina's work in a second, but so what? So what if you're Thad or Johnny? Treat it like it's your work. Okay. Milka, did you have a different experience?
That's exactly why I don't put names of the students on the work, because I don't want to know who did it, because it's about the work. And that's something I said the very first week, is when we look at these, we want to look at them as an exercise to learn from them. It's not about you, okay? It's about the work. And that's exactly why I said, cut the umbilical cord, because we don't want this to be about you. We want this to be about the work. You're absolutely right, Chris. We're learning from each example. And one thing that I was hoping to see is to see a lot of things that we've already talked about implemented into the work. And I hope to see that in the following week. And thank you for bringing that up, Chris.
My pleasure. So we're going to talk about Christina's work in a second here. Again, did somebody else have another question that we can help answer while you guys are participating with us live on this call?
Yeah, we had a question on if we're going to get any content regarding UI for web or other formats.
That question is a little bit coming out of left field for me. We promised UI web or something?
Yeah, well, I think people just they're probably working on a lot of UI web type projects, but just wondering if there's anything that is coming up for those formats.
No, because we're just strictly working with type and page layout right now. And if you're dealing with UI, I think a lot of the things that we're sharing with you are probably not appropriate because it makes it harder to read. Good user interface should be intuitive, right?
Chris, actually, maybe we can put a class together for that, because I totally understand the demand for good typography on mobile and web and UI.
Mm-hmm. I totally get it too. The thing is with the page layout here, you're going to get the most bang for your buck in terms of dealing with a lot of type and being able to work free of some of those constraints. But most definitely, you're going to start to maybe look at the relationship with the menus and the pages that you design and understand the contrast in weight, the positioning, the spacing. And we see this a lot, actually. When you see people setting up a blog post, they'll make the headline, maybe it's too big or too small relative to the body copy, the byline, the date it was published. All those kinds of things is almost literally like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'm bugged by this. A lot of typesetting, the default, the leading is just too open for me. It's wasting really valuable real estate, but it's creating all these white bars underneath every line of copy. So pay attention to that.
And folks, just so you know, you're building confidence with typography right now. And when you learn the rules, then you can break the rules. One thing about designing typography for web is that, yes, you're right, things are more structured in that area. But the more you practice, especially the fundamentals of what we're teaching you, okay, the more you'll have more confidence to know what to do with your typography for web design layout. And again, we're here to help you if you're interested in working with us from a private standpoint, or Chris and I can talk about putting a class together in that respect, but that's something to talk about.
Yes. Okay. So in the meantime, we worked on this. Okay. And whoever asked that question, since I can't read it right now, if you have a follow-up question and maybe refine it a little bit, maybe I can answer it a little bit better.
Yes.
But this is what we're focused on right now. So I don't want to take our focus off that. So I laid some grid lines on top while we're waiting.
Nice.
We want to talk about Christina's work. There's some really crazy angles going on here, but they're not crazy enough where it's totally just like the other layout that we had worked on, where everything's busted in weird angles. They're just a little bit on, a little bit off, which really just messes me up. You see it right here? Like these lines are parallel, I think, almost.
Yeah.
No, it looks like they're converging down here and they're opening up on this side. I could be just drawing it sloppily. I don't know, but I could tell for sure this one's a little bit off. And how do I know? If I look at this, well, holy cow. Okay. Maybe you can build the file a little bit differently next time, but there's some issues there. Okay. My wife reminded me, don't get so technical on these things, so I won't get too technical.
These things don't bother me as much because I feel like I really want to actually acknowledge the effort the designer put into doing this. I really want to give that kudos. This is not easy. I'm sure they put a lot of love into this, and they had probably some fun and some frustration. These things can be refined and finessed as we move forward. But the question is, how can everything else speak to one another? Because right now, I feel like Christina spends so much precious time, TLC, towards the graphic design, but then the remaining body copy, they're like, I'm out of fuel. I don't have any more gas. I don't know what to do with them anymore. So Christina, if you were to go back to finish this layout, one more layer, what would you do? I'm curious to know that.
Is she on right now? She might be.
Okay, never mind, Christina. This is for everyone.
Okay, just kidding. Go ahead. What were you gonna say? Something, Milka?
No. This is a good exercise for everybody to think about it. What would you do if you were Christina? How would you resolve this problem? How would you create a relationship between graphic design and the remaining body copy?
No, are you teasing us, or will you eventually tell us?
Oh, I like to make people think.
Oh, okay. I'm
So it's just something to think about, because here's what I believe in, Chris. If I give the answer one ear in, one ear out, you won't remember it, right?
What did you say?
Good job, good job. But when you ask a question, then you start thinking about it, and then what you're doing is you're putting the responsibility upon the listener for them to take action and be more proactive, rather than being passive, giving them the answers. Because we're not there for them all the time, are we?
No, just once a week.
Yeah, once a week. So they need to figure out on their own. What would Milka say? What would Christo say?
Milka would say cut the umbilical cord. No, that's the wrong sound effect. But yeah. And she would say tight, tight, tight. Okay, so
some of the things.
Yeah, so I too appreciate like what you've done here, and I think Milka nailed it. She's like in the mind of the designer. We spent a lot of energy, effort. Like when we look at this, we're like, oh my God, what the heck is going on here? How do you even work with that? For me, it's like, woo! It's like a bowl of spaghetti spilled out on the floor. So I think after that, you got exhausted and like, I don't know what to do with the rest. And it's really, if you go crazy, it's like, how do we make this work? How do we bring it together? And so all I did right now is duplicate one of the crazy layers, remove the mask that you put on it. And I just started to play around with spacing and leading to make this almost look like a logo lockup. So I personally just don't even think you need to cut this thing up. I don't know if cutting it up adds anything. I think choosing to focus on the word graphic design was an interesting a direction for you to head down. And I just don't know if it needs that much more. Okay, so cutting it up into 1,000 pieces, I just don't know if it really fundamentally added or gave you that much for what you put into it.
Chris, I'm sorry to interrupt you. When I saw everybody's work this week, I could tell that everyone was inspired by what you did last week. Remember, you took that paragraph and you cut it in half and you pushed and pulled it. I can see a lot of that inspiration in people's work. So I really want to give the kudos for trying that out.
Okay.
Chris, you're an inspiration.
You reminded me of it. I totally forgot about it. Yeah, so we're going to show you tricks. And then once you try them, you're going to like, okay, now what do we need to do? I want to show you one other trick or an idea. Okay, watch this. And then next week, we're going to have horrible ads because I've pointed you in the wrong direction. I've not been a good teacher here. So I'm going to match this baseline, which is what I've done here. Okay, and I'm going to see. This may be horrible. There's always a chance it'll be horrible. And I'm okay with that. And I liked how Milka described the process of the struggle as an indicator, like, hey, you're moving into an uncomfortable space. Something good may come out of this. I don't know. So I'm taking that and I'm going to just try. Like, we can't add things, but we can surely subtract things. And this may be a lot easier for us to play around with than what she was doing before. I don't know. So I just want to show you some other things here, okay? That the subtraction of things also can create a lot of visual interest. And what are we doing? We're essentially taking each of these letters and making it twice as complicated by splitting them in half. But there's also something here that the famous artist Jean-Michel Basquiat would always do. He would cross out words. And I watched a film about him, a documentary, and I asked him, like, why do you cross out words? What's that? Because when you cross things out, it makes it feel taboo, like it's forbidden. And it makes you even more curious as to what's behind it. That's why I think lingerie or certain like striptease is very interesting to men, because if a person was just standing there naked, it would kind of just be, okay, I've seen it. There's nothing left. But now I have to use my imagination to fill in the gaps. And that's where some of the tension comes in. Now, granted, this is not very easy to read, or maybe even arguably impossible to read. But if you were able to read it, you would kind of be rewarded. In your mind, you'd be like, oh, I got it. I wonder how many other people figured it out.
Nice. I like that.
There was this ad many years ago for Honda, and they did a bunch of vanity plates. Vanity plates are custom license plates, and they're often coded messages. And it was one of the highest performing ads of all time, because they had a screen full of license plates, and you'd sit there and you'd figure it out. So whereas the average ad got like half a second of read time, this thing like was off the charts in minutes, because people are trying to deconstruct and figure it out. Because when you figure it out, you feel like you're in on the joke. You feel like you're part of the club, the cool kids.
And Chris, how many exercises, how many variations are the students are asked to do every week?
I think they're supposed to do 10, but just only submit 3.
Okay, they're supposed to do 10, but they're submitting 3, best 3.
Their best 3.
Their best 3. I'm curious to know how many of them really do all that 10, do the entire 10, if not more.
Well, we have some of them here. They can answer that question for us. So some of you that have tuned in. Live,
it's okay. Don't, I don't want to put you on spot. Here's my philosophy. I always encourage my students actually to do 20. I know. Whoopee. Yeah.
Whoopie's a different sound effect.
Folks, you'd be
leave the sound effects to me, Milka. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah. Folks, you'd be surprised what an effect that creates on you when you do 20. Studies have shown, I took a scuba diving class, and I remember that they used to make us go deep, dive deep down into the swimming pool, Olympic swimming pool size, and swim all the way across the swimming pool with only 3 breaths. And we did this 17 times every day. Okay, every class time. Why? Because they believed that when you are underneath the water, okay, you don't want to think how I'm going to survive. You want automatically, boom, to remember what to do. Okay, so they taught us a lot of tricks to do under the water, but we did it 17 times every time because they wanted to embed that in us. So one of the reasons that I asked my students to do this at least 20 times is because I would ask them to come to the class with their best 15. This way I knew they at least did it somewhere between 15 and 20, and it has become embedded in us. You'd be surprised that how, when you do so many, it becomes like as if you're drinking water. Easy, sweet, simple.
Nice. I tried something like that. I did not do well. I only tried one time, Milka.
Milka, to answer your question, a lot of people have done 10, some fewer, but there's people that have done up to 20. So
good.
Kudos to those people.
Yes. Good job. Keep it up, because the more you try, the more you are going to learn. It's practice.
Milka, you need to say that in a rhyming kind of way. The more you try.
I'm listening.
We're not MCs, guys. We're not battle rapping here today.
The more you try.
The more your designs become fly.
There we go.
Ooh, I like that. The more you try, the more design becomes fly.
Okay. What else? What else are we doing?
Okay, I don't see these pieces talking to one another. I see islands. I want to see these. Every element needs to talk to one another. Why? Because it's not about you, me. It's about the whole thing together, working together as a unity.
Yeah, as a unity.
As a unit.
Okay. So as we struggle with our vocab skills here.
This is why we're so creative. We even come up with creative language description.
There's I'm trying to find my brush and my pattern library here just to show you what else we can do. But okay, I totally broke the layout. I just wanted to show you. We probably need to just maybe talk about a few. Oh, okay. We need to talk about Keith Cox.
Ooh.
Keith, we have some issues. We're struggling here. We have a block. Okay. This is what I mean. Let me grab a necessary element here.
That's exactly the one we've talked about this multiple times. This one. We've talked about this multiple times. I remember one specifically from last week. I'm sorry, Keith. I don't mean to give you tough love. I apologize, but we want you to improve. And we talked about how things are right now speaking in different direction. We've got horizontal, we've got vertical, and we've got diagonal. And then we've got, boom, dead space at the bottom. Keith, what were you thinking?
Is this a rhetorical question, or do you want Keith to actually answer if he is on right now?
No, I want him to be inspired to think, and maybe next week we can push his work even further based on what we have suggested. Keith, give us some feedback. Are these feedback working for you? Are these making any sense? If not, let us know how else we can help you to push your work even better.
Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take this, Keith, because I think Milka's asked you a couple of questions. Boom! And now we have to kind of answer them. Okay, so I'm going to shoot. I messed that part up.
Keith, we have Chris here. He's going to help you.
I'm not sure if he's on here. Let's see.
I don't think. I mean, there's no guarantee that anybody that submitted stuff is on.
Okay, never mind, Keith. Everybody.
Once again, everybody.
Yes, Chris has all the answers.
Okay, so I have some, not all. So here we go. It's like something like that. Okay, more or less. So when I look at this, if this were an abstract painting, how much would you pay for this painting? Would you want to hang this in your room of beautiful modern art and architecture? I don't know. So the proportion, the relationship, it doesn't seem like there's a relationship, Keith. So this is one of those things where you really need to lean into some of the critiques that we're providing and apply that to what you're doing. I'm not seeing a relationship between these three things. And what we're doing is we're cutting off space. So you've taken this space here, which is like nice, big, and open, and you just made it smaller by cutting it off, and you're just making it smaller and smaller, and it's harder to deal with. And then this seems like I have an element. I'm just going to jam it in here. I don't know what to do with it.
Chris, may I acknowledge that Keith's efforts in creating two different sizes and two different weights, because if you look at the top portion, I can tell he spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to use these different parameters. Do you see how REZ is in bold, N8 is in light, and then he's got the different size at the bottom, journal graphics. I see he's got it all with different elements, but then all three of us, the question is, all these three different islands, as you are describing it to everyone, how can they relate to one another and speak to one another?
Yeah. So if we wanted to, there's a couple other things too. I think you're using more than the two weights that you were given. So this is, I think, come on. This is light.
Nice.
This is bold.
Nice.
And this is italic. So right there you broke it, because there's three now, and you're not supposed to do that, right? So that's something. So if we were to take this, and let's make it conform again, it's like you have too many ingredients. You ran to the pantry,
Yes.
and the cook-off, and you grabbed too many things, and you threw it all in the stew, and it was just too much.
Nice analogy. Too many salt and pepper.
Yeah, it's just too many things. You're throwing it all in there, okay? And the stew's coming out. It's like it's confused a little bit. The thing that we talked about before is if you're struggling with your design, just do this one thing. Just make the point sizes smaller. Just make them smaller. I'm also seeing here, wow, okay, never mind. It's 12-point type. The default point size, which we said in the first week, do not use the default point size. Do not use the default weight of regular. It's the ugliest one that you can find. So watch what happens. I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to make it smaller by making it 10 point. And then Milka, at some point, she's going to say her classic line. Okay, so that's 10 point. I'm going to hide this. I'm going to take this again. I'm going to just make it.
Oh my goodness. Wow. What size is that now?
You know, that's 8-point type now. Okay.
Gorgeous.
The thing that we need to do is, I'm going to say this, pretend, okay, this is going to be a crazy analogy. I've never used it before. Pretend you're the host of like a slamming party. You're the person who throws parties that celebrities come to. And you have these three friends, and they're all awkward and introverted, like normal designers, right? You have these friends. You have, why is this grouped? I'm going to ungroup this. Okay, you have this friend, you have this friend, and you have this friend and this friend. But none of them are talking to each other, right? And what they're doing is they're being wallflowers. You guys know what I'm talking about when it's being wallflowers. They're just standing by the wall. The party's happening inside the space. Everybody's like having a great time. And this friend is just sitting here by the wall. So I'm going to show you something. Hey,
Yeah,
friend. Hey, come over here. Hang out over here a little bit. Hey, friend, come in a little bit. Just come in.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Even you, weirdo, on an ankle, you could just exist. So by just introducing them to the rest of the room and the guests that you have, you're going to start to create an interesting relationship. So that's what we should try to do. Okay, so I'm going to bring this sucker back. This friend is just hogging up all the attention and blocking the exit.
Yeah.
Friend, you're making it uncomfortable for everybody. Step back a little bit. Give everybody some space. Talk a little bit quieter. And maybe we can have a good time.
Well, what if he's the host?
The host should not be here. The host should just make everybody feel really comfortable, in my opinion. Right?
Okay.
But you're going to say something profound. I feel it.
I love your analogy. Good job. Beautiful.
I learned from the best.
We learn from each other. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. You're the best.
Okay, so we're going to keep working on it. Okay, Keith, so let's pay attention. Like next week, explore the smaller point sizes and see if you can get your friends to talk to each other in a way that's, using the rest of the space. And I know you can make it work, Keith. We want you to get better. We know that you have it within you. So let's do that. Okay, I didn't make it a whole lot better.
Can I make you a suggestion, please? If you're ever stuck on a work that you don't know if it's good or not, here's my suggestion. You've got at least 10 exercises that you can do. Take one of them and make it really bad, purposely. Make it really, really bad and look at it. And then this way, you know where to go, where not to go. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because right now, this is what I said this earlier. Design with your foot on the gas. You can always subtract. Right now, you're focusing, a lot of the work that I see with everyone at this moment is that I see a lot of beautiful focus in certain areas, beautiful focus in certain areas, beautiful focus in certain areas, but not all is still in sync with one another. Take that layout, copy and paste it, and do something that you've never done before. Have them talk to each other in a weird way. See what happens. Then this way, if you draw a line, how far to go and how far not to go.
Keep talking, Milka.
I was done with my speech.
I'm done. Okay, so let's keep going. Now, speaking of small point sizes, somebody had a layout here where it's like, oh my God, when we tell you go small, this is from Kyle Daly. This is a very interesting layout. Okay, you look at it and you're like, there's something really beautiful, minimal.
Yeah.
And out of this black square, which you're not allowed to have just yet. Okay, when we introduce shapes and lines, you can do that. But the reason why this looks so good right now is because they use this type that's so small, and I actually checked it out.
What size is it?
First of all, let me ask you, what size is acceptable to you, Milka, for print?
You have to figure out who your audience is, because at different age, you want to be mindful of using different size point. I have used 6-point type, but still readable. There's a lot of tricks into it that you have to apply. In general, 8-point looks gorgeous, but for some certain audience, it's not readable. They have to squint their eyes and they can't read it.
Yeah. So in print, high quality printing, good paper for the certain audience, I think the bottom end is going to be about 6-point type. This, ladies and gentlemen, is 4-point type.
Ooh.
So on a screen, a high definition screen, a 4K screen, a 8K screen, whatever you got, you might say like, it's fine. And it's a beautiful layout. It really is. It's like well balanced. There's some interesting things going on. There's definitely big, medium, and small going on here. Big, medium, and then small, right? You definitely have that. But
Nice.
You've done it in a way that you've gone beyond the parameters in terms of like legibility, because if you were to print this thing out, it would be next to impossible to read. Okay. So it's something we want to think about. Obviously, Kyle knows how to design. He knows to make this work, but I want you to try to make it work within the parameters. So I would just to take this and change it to 6-point type. Okay, the layout, okay, it's funky and broken already, but
yeah,
you can see that. You need to work on that, okay? So what I would suggest you do is just use the space a little differently. You can make it work.
Oh my God, that's just brilliant.
Okay, you can make it work. Then you could take this. It's not aligned.
Chris, are they using a grid that you've provided them?
I don't know if I included a grid, but
Okay, because I see a lot of grids with everyone's work,
yeah,
and I'm not.
definitely was a lecture on grids. Whether they're using it correctly or not, I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So what I need to do is fix this. Oh, it's scary. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't want to focus on this too much, but sometimes the way you build your file, it works against you. Like right now, I can't even move this because all these things are linked together and just not necessary. Maybe it's this one that's, yeah, maybe it'll work now.
So
Okay.
Chris, just a heads up, we're hitting 2 hours.
We're hitting 3 hours.
We're past it. We're at 5 hours now.
Okay. Okay. So we can make this work. If we scaled it up, it could work. Okay. So Kyle, I get the sense that you know how to design, but you're breaking the rules in ways that you still have to work within the parameters we're given, and then break those rules inside of it, but not invent your own rules. Because
Can I add one quick little suggestion to this, Chris? And I'm sure you'd agree. I would take the word resin, the N and 8. I would love to see the stroke of the N to be aligned with the body copy. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So you may have to move the top. Yeah. Yes. Whew. That
Okay.
looks so clean and organized. Good job.
A lot of like British or Swiss or European design, you'll see things like this.
Yes.
Beautiful typeface.
Swiss design.
Swiss design, and bold and light being paired together with like simple shapes like this. And you could see, like, if I were to introduce color, this thing would just pop, right?
Yeah.
Just to like give me a hot pink or something. You've seen things like this.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I think we're going to need to wrap pretty soon. So I'm going to quickly scan and I'll just talk real fast. Okay. Let's talk about some of these layouts. So Valentine DeVoe, I think you have some similar issues here where it's just 4 things that are separate. They're not talking to each other. Let's pay attention to that. And I think we need to kind of use the space a little bit smarter than this. Okay. This is Chris Jansen. Chris is doing something really tricky here. I don't even know how he did this. He's probably putting things in a box and getting everything to fit and flow from one thing to the next. It is borderline like even legible. So it's really working on the shapes. But I can tell something with Chris is that he understands proportion. He understands the different weights that you can create. It's just pushing legibility, and he's just painting with shapes, I feel.
Yeah. That has a lot of potentials. I can see that for some, maybe a big wallpaper. He's creating a pattern. I'm curious to see more of his work. Beautiful.
Okay, so we talked about Christina.
Are these posters or are these magazines? Someone's asking. These are magazine covers.
Theoretically. That's the estimate. Okay. Okay, so Yuri.
Oh, nice.
Yuri's layout is actually really nice.
Yeah.
Okay. It's got one strong axis here. This one.
Yes.
Boom. And everything works off of it. She's using the 2 point sizes really well. First name, last name, all caps, and differentiating lowercase, upper lowercase, and then all caps to create different textures and visual weights that you see on screen. Okay. I think she also treated this really smart because this is the only one that's 2 people. Odermatt and TC are 2 people. So good job on that. Maybe the relationship between these need to be strengthened. Yeah. That's the thing I can think of where you could take possibly these things. Shoot. Okay. Maybe shoot this out more. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
Something
I agree.
For attention, right? But really good layout, Yuri. I'd love to kind of see where you take this next week when we open it up even more. Okay. Let's see, Jason Jacobson. Okay, the yin and the yang's happening here, right?
Yep. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I think everything's.
It's an exciting layout. Let's not forget that it's a very exciting layout, but there is too much of a symmetry happening, as you said, yin yang.
Yes. So the other problem I'm having with this is that this resonate. You see the baselines here?
Yes.
Kind of almost on the same baseline. This is where, if you plan this out a little bit more, you can get it to work. But the problem is it shouldn't be on the baseline because it's totally different. So you need to break it.
I like that. Nice job.
Resonate. That's the journal for graphic design.
Wow. Wow. Just with just one little movement, it's you make this page so, you make all the pages so brilliant, Chris. I mean, they are brilliant, but you make them even more brilliant.
Thank you. And you're repeating a lot of information. I get that. And it's just, you're losing space when you do that. So be mindful. I know you want more elements to work with. I could see something working really beautifully here. Let's see here. Let me try and grab something here real quick. Maybe I'll grab this one. And I'll delete this because I think those are
Yes.
If I paste this in, and then I were to, let's see, copy that. Okay. Maybe reduce this down a little bit. So you can see that if you just break the information up differently, like this, you can create a whole different texture and style. You know, I'm going to break it, but you see like these things look very different than these other things, but they're related. This versus this.
Beautiful. And why they're related? Because they're on the same axis.
Same axis, and they're similar shapes. So if I just space it out, maybe I could get it to work. I don't know. Yeah, okay. This should have been like one thing here. It's just harder to work with when you move something. So eventually I could make it work, but not this second. And I also wanted to open the space so you can flow through. And maybe the tension would work better if this were pushed a little bit more.
Nice job. What if we take the open dates and put it underneath 8?
This?
So that, no, the body copy that you move to the side where it says open, and bring it underneath that letter 8, somewhere in that vicinity. Okay, good. Now you got that push and pull.
Okay. Okay, still broken, still need some work, but it's just some ideas. Mo Zhu coming back. Mo, okay. Mo, I had to point this out. This is super not easy to read, like very difficult to read because low contrast. You need to be mindful of that. I'm glad that you're trying that. You're really pushing it there. It's like, shoot.
I like how he's creating a 3D effect using 2D.
Yes, that's why I picked this one, but I want to be able to see it.
Right.
So let me lock that layer back up. So you're kind of creating, we've seen things like this and they're actually really beautiful when you do it the right way. The problem is we need to skew this type more. There's an effect on this and you want to see it like, where's the skew tool? Excuse me. The shear. I'm going to totally mess this up, guys. Where you want a stronger like 90-degree turn. Okay, so if you're going to play around with stuff like this, go all the way. Because right now it's kind of like not right.
Yeah.
Milka, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. It's again, be aware of things that sometimes we play it safe. We think, oh, let me play it safe. But if you're playing safe, then it's not right.
Yeah. You know what? I really like this. This is the first time I've seen this. The inclusion of the register symbol adds a whole nother element, right? Because you're not really allowed to draw any shapes just yet. So using the register symbol, that's pretty ingenious, right? I kind of like that. And it's almost like this little label, a little logo, and it's really cool. So being able to find characters that you might not normally see and using them within your layout, pretty cool. Applaud you for that. Okay. Sharaf, Edine.
Not afraid. I love it. Not afraid. Very, very bold. It could be cleaned up a little bit because it's there's too much tight letting happening. But I love the direction that this design is going.
Okay. My one thing is like, I feel like there's some weird rhythm going here. Something is off, the cadence, the flow, and maybe you take this. Maybe this. I don't know.
Nice.
Let's try a little bit. Okay.
Beautiful. Oh my God. I can breathe.
Okay. Michael Lau. Let's look at Michael's work. Michael's like just using this kind of scatter approach and just shooting type all over the place. It is fairly hard to read for me, right? I'm thinking you don't even need this. I know you feel like we tell you guys to make things bleed like that, but sometimes it's not even necessary. If you show enough of the 3 down here, maybe it's all that we need.
You know, besides the scattered letters, I think that area where there's typography, it's very beautiful. If we could zoom in, could we admire the beauty of it, please? Nice job. I think I love how there's bold and then light, but then it's tracked out, regular. Very nice.
A lot
Good
of
job.
stuff going on here. Using a lot of open leading, open tracking, a lot of different visual weights that are happening here.
Yeah, but I want to give kudos for trying it out, because if you don't, you never know.
You never know. Okay. All right. It probably needs something here. I just don't know what that thing is just yet. Right? Maybe it needs this. That's feeling a little uncomfortable for me down there. What if we just rotate it?
Folks, don't be afraid of vertical and horizontal rotation.
And then I think I want to bring this over to make it related right there.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow. Whew.
And last little thing is, let's just shoot it over a little bit. I don't know. We can continue to play.
The relationship between the Z and the R and the N is almost the same. It's like a triangle with all sides equal. So I would, yes, make it an isosceles. Good.
Something. Okay. Let's see here. We already talked about that one. Already talked about that. Okay, this one has some problems here. Vasil Picharov. Woo! Okay, I think you took the tight thing and you made it super tight. You made it really tight. The problem is we have 3 or 4 different things that aren't talking to each other. The masthead, the resonate, it's got its own visual language. And then just to make it even crazier, you added an outline version here, a stroke. And it's just making everything, it's like everything is screaming for attention. Like, look at me. No, look at me. No, look at me. And that's where the problem is, okay?
Yes.
Try to just simplify things. If you feel like something is funky with your layout, just reduce the number of tricks. This type has been outlined because I don't think I have the typeface, so Vasil took care of that for me. I can't adjust it as much, but it's just so. And then look at the space. It's just weird shapes that are being created unintentionally.
Yes.
All right.
And Vasil, can I give you kudos for trying all this out so we can come and tell you guys what not to do?
Yeah. So don't do that.
Thank you. This is exactly how you learn. You got to try these funky stuff. And at the same time, please make sure that you implement all the things that we're telling you, so we know that you're learning. Because if you're not implementing it, then I'm confused.
Yes. Okay. Yunji's layout, I like a lot. She's doing something January, February 2018, breaking out the information. She's just taking one basic idea, really driving the contrast, really big point size, very black, very heavy and bold, and then something a little bit smaller in all caps, and just kind of quietly placed there. Go ahead.
Can I give a quick feedback on this? Yunji, your talent is just beyond. It's amazing. You know what you're doing. If I may push you a little bit further, is to be aware of scattered space. Right now, there's a lot of scattered space, and there's also a safe white margin that is going almost around the page. Be aware of these things. I would like to see this layout one more time or 2 more times with some other tweaks and variations and massages.
So if you look at this layout, it's got a similar proportion amount of white as the top as the bottom. So do what we always do here. Just take it and push it to the top, and then take it and push it to the bottom and see what happens. See if the layout becomes more interesting or worse, okay? And again, we're just gonna crop it differently and show you kind of what is created. All this tension that's created. Maybe
it's gorgeous.
Right?
Yes, and then remember, with the white space at the top, you don't want it to be dead. You want to make it active by bringing a satellite in. Awesome job, Chris. It needs to be rotated so they can speak to one another, right?
Sure.
Gorgeous. Right now it's a little bit too straight, but you guys get the idea. It's right now it's almost 1:30, so we're just zooming through everything.
Zoom in. We already talked about this. Jin Wang, Okay, a lot of interesting things happening here. I like and appreciate the random letter spacing. All caps generally very hard to read, but I actually like what you're doing here. And you smartly kind of decrease the leading here. It's just like it's becoming like this rain pattern that you've created. Whereas the other layout, Milka described as seeds growing into trees. This is almost like a canopy, like a weeping willow. So like it's hanging upside down. So there's something really cool there. And you've got a lot of things going on. So this is a question. I forget who asked this. It could have been you, Jing. I don't know who asked this, but almost too many things going on right now. Again, you could just really simplify this. Okay. Just go simplify, use one trick and see what happens instead of throwing every trick in the book. I would generally advise you to stay away from the edges, just jamming things in there. So if I look at this and I say, okay, look, how does this make me feel?
And again, Jing, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate, because you're showing us what works and what doesn't work.
So to me, if I just had this, I would be totally fine with it. That's kind of cool, right?
I don't know. It needs something. It's too flat, and he's aware of that. It's too flat.
What do you want to put in there?
I think the problem is the direction. Right now, this one is working. The top area is working vertically, and then we have something coming in horizontally. So there's a crash coming in.
Like this?
They're not talking to each other yet. What if you take all that body copy on the left, all the light, beautiful stuff, and then rotate it horizontally? Okay, that works. I was thinking of having the spine aligned with one another, some kind of an alignment. Because you have a beautiful, strong axis with where the names are right now.
Okay, so let's work on this. It's like,
yes,
this could be really cool. It just needs to kind of, everything else has to play second fiddle, so to speak. There's a star, and the star's on the stage. Everything else work with a star. Don't try to compete and upstage your star. Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll figure it out, but not today.
You guys be aware of all this funky space that is created when you have text coming in this way and text coming in this way or text coming in this way. You get all this weird space. Be aware of that. How do you get rid of it? Is by rotating things around and having their backbones speak with one another. Does that help?
Yes. Okay. So let's keep going. We already talked about
masterpiece. How much? I'll pay for it.
I'll send you a signed PDF copy later. Okay, Ryan Jenke. Okay.
Ooh.
It's a nice layout.
I like it.
Space to breathe, good offsetting, good satellite, good tension,
job.
good juxtaposition.
Good focal point.
Good overall, right? And maybe you just need a maybe. What do you think?
Yes. You want to be aware of that dead space.
That's
Good job. Beautiful.
Pull everything together.
Good job. Ryan, are you paying attention?
I have a quick metaphor here. If you're designing a room and you're decorating, you're an interior designer. If you have like a painting that pulls a little bit of the color from the pillows and the flooring and the vases that you've purchased, that brings the whole room together. That's what this thing does. It's adding a little bit of paint, a little texture to the whole space, and it will activate it and bring it all together for you. Maybe that's not the perfect spot for it. Bhuvan Banat. I like the big 8. Really cool. I don't like this little white thing that's strapped in here. And you're trying lots of different tricks here with this. Somehow I feel like maybe this is the element that needs to kind of come back to play with us. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe make it relate. I'm not sure just yet. Okay. It needs something like that. Okay.
Wow. I can't believe with just one movement, how you make things come alive.
You know how I can do that? Because it's time for us to end.
Good job. Folks, okay. Yeah. What are they doing next week, Chris? Are you going to talk about that?
No. Okay. Mark will tell us later.
Okay.
I think we already talked about this layout here. There were some problems. I really like this. This is very interesting. Maybe the position is a little bit funny.
Yeah.
I like that you cut off the bottom. So you kept the top, very legible. I like the alignment here. I think maybe we just need to push this further south or something.
Nice understanding of that spine. Beautiful, Janik. Beautiful.
Yes. Or is it Yannick? Janik? Yannick?
Yannick, I'm sorry.
I don't know. I don't know how to say anybody's name. But maybe close up the spacing, because you see, I see the white bar. See the white bar there?
That's cool. I like it because it's the same height as the Journal of Graphic Design. I like it.
Okay.
For me, that speaks.
Okay. Watch this. Just because I want to challenge Milka. What if we just jammed it right up to it?
Please, I appreciate you doing this. Thank you, Chris.
And if we took this and took this and just offset it a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I broke it. Because I like the tension, these two things butting up to each other. And it really draws this baseline from the Journal of Graphic Design. It shoots it all the way down. It's a very sharp line. Something to think about. Okay. Okay, the rest of you guys, good job. We're just out of time.
That's one way to end it.
Except for Pallavi. Pallavi, come on, man. Look at this layout. What are we doing here? All kinds of weird shapes, jamming things in a corner. This is one of those things where let's work on this, man.
And Pallavi, thank you for doing this, so we can all be reminded of what not to do. Where we're like, there's prison bar everywhere. There's trap space everywhere. Nothing speaks to one another. So I appreciate you doing that, so we can all learn what not to do.
That's a very nice kind of compliment and a slap at the same time. So Nick and Robin, this is actually a pretty nice layout.
Yes.
We probably tighten up some of the spacing. I think this is should be here maybe to really bring this one, the stronger grid, pretend like that's the line.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
Maybe, just maybe, take this, and this, and just bring it up a little bit. It doesn't need to be so far away. Okay, and then now we have new issues with spacing, right?
That with the dead space. So we just have to take the whole thing, maybe move them up or down. Nice.
Move that down a little bit.
Ah,
something. Okay. All right.
You got the magic touch, Chris.
This is a really nice layout. The Journal for Graphic Design. Probably one of the nicer. I like the introduction to this exclamation point.
Yeah.
So, resonate.
Yes.
Right. Before it's just resonate. Okay. Last layout. Sarah Wu. Sarah, let me look at this. I want to make sure that we at least mention or look at some of the submissions from women, because there's a majority of them are men. So I just want to do that. I want to acknowledge all you women that are brave enough to play with us. Some issues here. I just don't love the way that this type creates a triangle. I like asymmetrical beauty, and sometimes these shapes, you're working hard to get all these things lined up. You've even added this / in there, so just to kind of really drive that shape, but I just don't know. Milka, do you like this?
Sarah, I like the overall composition, and I understand what Chris is talking about. This is the same example as the one where we had the crisscross coming in with the resonate in the middle, and then Chris went in there and just move things around.
Turkey did.
Yeah, if that's going to be your focal point, go in there and just have some fun with it, because right now it's just too too structured, too uptight. It needs a laxative.
Oh my gosh. And that's how we'll end it. So hey everybody, thank you very much for tuning in with us for another Typography Tuesdays. I'm Chris Doe. My co-teacher in this class has been Milka Broukhim, and it's been wonderful to have you as part of this. I hope you'll be able to join us next week, Milka, and we're going to put your information, how to get in touch with Milka. If you're a big corporation, you need some help, some consulting, some training, feel free to reach out to her. I'll include her information below. If you want to reach out to her as a teacher, as a mentor, as a friend, please send her a personal message so she knows who the heck you are, because she's not one of these social people online. She only talks to real people she knows, okay?
Yeah, and feel free to connect me on Instagram and my Facebook my public Facebook page, or LinkedIn, or all three.
Put all information down below. Okay, guys, thank you very much for sticking out with us. If you made it from the beginning to the end, congratulations. Go have yourself an adult beverage.
Awesome job. Awesome job.
Our team, thanks for tuning in. This is it. We'll see you guys next week where Mark will tell us what exactly we need to do.
Yep. So next week we've got multiple weights and sizes. So it opens up the gates.
Any size, any weight. And I expect a little bit of a train wreck. So don't disappoint me, everybody. Okay. That's it. Jonah, get us out of here. Peace. See you next time.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.